markets think as when he takes office. Is there anything from the soft commodities, wheat, rice, sugar, whatever, that you think Donald Trump's presidency will be affected one way or the other? It looks like crude oil seems to be on everybody's mind, as it were. So it looks like commodities are just having their own field there, are they?
Yes, I mean, the grains and soft commodities markets, what we've seen is that we've not seen a significant impact. What we expected to happen was with Trump emerging as the winner, we would have seen a weaker dollar. But there were some reports from the United States Department of Agriculture for the grains commodities, which is that inventory levels have increased, and so we saw the prices of those commodities declining yesterday. For the price of cocoa and sugar, what we've seen is that the cocoa and coffee and cocoa council in Ivory Coast has put a pause on forward sales of cocoa futures because they're trying to kind of elude the lower prices that it's currently going for in the market. So they are creating some level of artificial scarcity to let prices increase. And then for sugar, what we're seeing is that prices are going down because on expectations of the fact that we don't expect Chinese demand to increase. Chinese demand is expected to decline by about 1.9 million tons, and this is contributing to the downtrend, the downward trend we're seeing in sugar futures.
Okay, thank you very much for coming through from our Lagos studios today on Commodities Market, bringing us up to speed what the market think about Donald Trump's victory at the polls in the United States. Let's expand the conversation a little bit. Let's bring in here what our commodities, oil and gas stocks look like yesterday. Investors seem to have believe perhaps they've dealt enough blow to Owando Nigeria PLC since the company reported about 26 billion naira in net loss for the third quarter ended September 30th, 2016. So the stock made its first green shoot yesterday on the local bourse. Now you can see that they're about 1%. It was the only stock that made a green after investors pounded Owando for that disappointing numbers, adding to the 2014 more than 125 billion naira that Owando reported, and another persistent quarterly losses since the start of 2016. But it was a green shoot, 426 yesterday, almost 2 million shares, and that make that sector look about in the green, in summary, 0.08%. Not quite significant, but looks like investors' angst against Owando is tapering off. Let's put that mildly. It's tapering off right now. But quickly, let's get back to the economic diversification where Nigeria is diversifying. You heard the commodity stories from Okoyemi Oguntade earlier about what the Nigerian government is doing to revamp the economy, diversifying. So the Minister of State at the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Aisha Abubakar, says the Buhari's administration is ready and willing to work with the private sector to diversify the economy, and that the Industrial Revolution plan of the Jonathan's administration is now being worked upon to be implemented by the Buhari's administration. This is what Mr. Abubakar says at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry event yesterday in Lagos. Listen to these few minutes.
For diversification and sustainable growth. I am particularly impressed by the fact that the conference is being organized by the private sector, being the core drivers in our diversification efforts and forming bulk of the attendees here today. In fact, I just returned from Madagascar for the Origin Africa 2016 trade show, a trade event that highlights the creativity and innovations of the African cotton, textile and clothing industries, home decor, machinery and technology, with a specific focus on business, trade and investment, where I was opportunity to pay a courtesy call on my counterpart, whose ministry is aptly titled Ministry of Industry and Private Sector Development. Therefore, contributions from relevant stakeholders, especially the private sector, are not only necessary, but an imperative in order to assist government make policies and create the enabling environment to promote sustainable growth and economic development in Nigeria. There is no gainsaying that Nigeria is an extremely blessed nation with abundant human and natural resources. However, what is lacking is the sincerity of purpose to institutionalize and enforce processes and procedures to ensure the maximum utilization of these resources. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now, most especially under the current focused and highly determined administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. As responsible citizens of this great nation of ours, it behoves on us to work together and articulate pragmatic strategies that will address the obstacles that hinder our development efforts. The task involved in the diversification of this economy is enormous. Perhaps that is why we've been on this path since 1978. Well, now we have no choice but to actively and effectively diversify. It will neither happen quickly nor easily. So when I read the theme of this conference clearly stating positioning, I was excited because it implies a deliberate move in the right direction. Over the past year, I have had several engagements with relevant stakeholders, persons who have demonstrated goodwill and support for the administration's efforts to diversify the economy and ensure that the MSME sector takes its rightful position as the main engine of growth. Some of you may be aware that this administration is continuing with the Nigeria Industrial Revolution Plan, NIRP. This is one of the 5 pillars the ministry is focusing on. The other 4 are creating an enabling environment for industry, trade and investment to thrive. To this end, as our President has already mentioned, His Excellency has approved the establishment of a Presidential Council on the Ease of Doing Business. Attracting domestic and foreign investment, a review of incentives and tariffs is being concluded for Federal Council approval. Supporting micro, small and medium enterprises, a review of the NEDEP document has been concluded by SMEDEN, and the agencies charged with implementing the NEDEP were recently enlarged to include NAFDAC, SON, CAC, and EPC in order to ensure a holistic framework towards addressing all the challenges of MSMEs.
Aisha Abubakar, the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, there talking to us about economic diversification and public-private sector partnership. We'll come back after the break. Ernst & Young has released a new global consumer banking survey. How does the things play out here on the Nigerian marketplace? That is what we're discussing next. After on the program, we're back in 2 minutes. Stick around.